So welcome to the February Broadband Consortium Pacific Coast Advisory Meeting. You are our advisory stakeholders. We hold this meeting every month to get input from you in the work that you're doing to deploy and make broadband accessible to our constituents in the Tri-County region. And we're really grateful to have such a variety of folks from internet provider industry, engineering firms, designers. We've got folks who are actually doing the construction work of installing broadband assets. And we also have public agencies represented on the call today from all three of our counties. Excited to see all of you here. And then additionally, folks who are working with nonprofits, chambers, and other organizations that are representing the people who live in our counties who are navigating the opportunities that internet provides, whether that is helping them find affordable options, helping them access digital literacy opportunities, opportunities to improve their own lives through all the hard work that our folks who are building the infrastructure are doing. So I really invite you to participate in this meeting. We will kick it off here with introductions. I will ask the BCPC team to introduce themselves, but in the meantime, if the rest of you will please put your name in the chat, the organization that you're working with, and your coverage area. What areas do you serve, both geographically, what part of our region are you serving, but also what sector are you working in, so we can kind of gauge who's here. I find that is a great opportunity for networking in these lovely virtual meeting spaces that we have continued to hold. So if you could please just put your introductions into the chat. I'll pass it over to start introductions. We'll start with San Luis Obispo. Michael, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, Michael Foote, Director of Economic Development at REACH. Happily member of the BCPC team and representing San Luis Obispo County.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm Shelby Arthur, and I'm in Santa Barbara County, but also coordinating the Tri-County efforts. Malika, you're up next in Santa Barbara County as well.
Sure. I'm Malika Ohm. I am working with the BCPC on various digital equity initiatives, and I'm in Santa Barbara County, but also working throughout the Tri-County region.
Thank you. And next we'll move down to Ventura County. Vivian.
Good morning, folks. I am Vivian Vasquez. I am with the BCPC team, also work with EDC, and I'm based out of Ventura County.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who have been supporting the consortium's work for far longer than I've been on these calls, you will notice that Bill's not here. He will be here, don't worry. He's going to join us. He's just got another overlapping obligation. So Bill Simmons has been a long time lead of the consortium and is now centering his work in Ventura County, and he'll join us hopefully by the time we're ready for some updates. But you'll see his face again. And then I'd lastly like to invite Tim Tierney to introduce himself.
Thank you, Shelby. Hello, everybody. My name is Tim Tierney, doing mapping and GIS support for the Broadband Consortium. Used to live in Santa Barbara, city of Santa Barbara, for over 10 years, but presently located in the northern part of the Los Angeles area.
And so this is our current BCPC team. If you ever come across questions you have, ideas, thoughts you want to share, progress you're making, you can reach out to our team and we'll make sure the right person is connected to you. Our agenda today, we have some updates from CPUC that I'll run through, and I encourage you to stop me and ask me questions if there's anything that you'd like more information about. Then we'll do a roundtable discussion. San Luis Obispo County, Santa Barbara County, Ventura counties. This is the part where we're inviting you to please participate and share the work that you're doing, the questions you have, the opportunities you want to partner on. That roundtable discussion is designed for our advisory group, all of you stakeholders, to jump in and have your voice be part of the conversation. We'll have then a special presentation about priority areas mapping. Tim Tierney will lead that conversation to showcase the work that BCPC has been doing to track progress towards meeting priority areas. This is one of our key work plan objectives, is to highlight priority areas for investment and then track progress in resolving those areas. We also invite you into that conversation because we are not the be all end all. We source information from all of you to make sure we're identifying areas that need that extra investment. Tim will also showcase a collaboration platform that is in development, and we will really focus on asking the stakeholders what additional data would be useful to you in completing the work you're doing. I also have a little bit of I actually have a non-starter update on the BEAD challenge process, but I will share it anyways. And then we'll run through some digital equity updates. If at any point during this you have something to say, please feel free to join the conversation. So first things first, updates from CPUC. The Broadband Consortium is funded primarily through CPUC grant funds. So we like to make sure that you are getting information about the opportunities that they have to subsidize investments in broadband infrastructure. Unless someone has found or heard information that I don't have, the FFA applications are still being reviewed. The rulemaking that was published prior to FFA accepting applications indicates that their projected award announcements are slated for March 2024. Folks who are very seasoned in broadband infrastructure and CPUC funding have shared that they are a little skeptical that March 2024 will be when the award announcements happen. Anyone have any insight or thoughts? Jory, I saw you unmute. Do you have any insider info for us?
Oh, I just had to clear my throat because that's my common response when you can't get a response out of the state.
Great. And so that's where we all are. We're all clearing our throats, waiting for more information. I did confirm this week that the CASIF infrastructure grant applications are still moving forward with their April 1st deadline for their 2024 cycle. There's no indication that they will delay it as they did last year. Last year in 2023, they delayed the cycle deadline twice to move it to May 1st and then to June 1st. We haven't heard any reason that they're going to do that yet. You can look at the California Interactive Broadband Map at broadbandmap.ca.gov to identify the areas the locations that are eligible for funding. If anyone's interested, raise your hand, put your little emoji thumbs up if you want us to look through that broadband map right now. I'm happy to give you a little tour of how you can identify what areas are available. Otherwise, we can set up a time to look through the map together later on if you're interested in looking at what sort of areas would be eligible for the infrastructure grant applications. These are available to public agencies, private providers, and nonprofits. So it's a fairly broad grant. It is an annual grant that will continue to be offered through CPUC for the foreseeable future, I think through 2032, they said, the initial legislation. So it's not going away. It's not a one-time shot like FFA or BEAD, but it is something that you can use to subsidize the cost of project that you'd like to submit or work on. BCPC has put together an ISP toolkit to help navigate the process and to help clarify our role in supporting your work in submitting an application. We do ask that you contact us to schedule a time to discuss your ideas for a project before March 1st. Since the deadline is April 1st, we want to make sure that we can accommodate your planning schedule and also get everybody in, to meet with one of our BCPC team members prior to the submission deadline. If you're looking for a letter of support, we ask that you submit your request for that before March 15th. So we have plenty of time to review your project and ask questions and get clarification so that we can determine if we can issue a letter of support and help you if you are looking for letters of support from other entities. The CASIF folks are recommending that you submit projects even if you submitted them for FFA. That's a lot of work. That is definitely an internal conversation your organization may want to have. I know some folks submitted CASIF infrastructure grant applications last June that then were submitted for FFA. I wouldn't recommend resubmitting them again necessarily, but you know, there was a CASIF team member did make a comment saying, you know, go ahead and submit those projects even if they were already submitted for FFA. So I want to pause in the CASIF infrastructure grant. That was a lot of information. You have questions? Okay. The Broadband Loan Loss Reserve Program is another CASIF program. This is available to public agencies, and it offers loans backing at favorable rates to back any bonds that a public agency is issuing in order to cover the cost of their investment in infrastructure. So this is infrastructure that's owned by the public agency and planned for operation. They will, I believe, have 2 cycles of applications available for this year. There has been a little bit of a shift in the loan loss reserve program based on the governor's budget that was released in January. They are shifting the amount of available funds to delay and lengthen the distribution of funds to help cover budget deficits this not deficits, but a move in the budget from loan loss program to cover the cost of middle mile investments at the statewide level. The Broadband Loan Loss Reserve Program is a brand new. They have not offered this before. This is the first round. The applications are due April 1st. So if this is something, if you're working for a public agency that wants to invest in your own infrastructure, please reach out to us and we can explore this option to see if it's something that fits in with your planning and the strategy for your municipality or jurisdiction. I wanted to also bring up the CASIF Public Housing Grant applications. So these aren't due until July 1st. This is to cover the cost of infrastructure investments to upgrade or connect initially public housing locations. However, there is a request submitted by the CASIF team to add mobile home parks to the list of eligible projects. Currently, it covers public housing grants and farm worker housing as well. So those are a couple of options. They're requesting to add mobile home parks. We'll find out by April, I believe, if that request is honored and that type of entity is added to the list of eligible projects for public housing needs. I'll pause one more time. Any thoughts, questions? I'm just downloading information for everyone. Another exciting update, I don't have it on this slide, but you may or may not know, but the CASIF fund, California Advanced Services Fund, that is the host within CPUC of all these grant applications, they are funded by fees that are added to telecom bills. So everyone pays a little bit into this fund. They've been authorized to collect something like $150 million per year based on these fees. CPUC has been authorized to collect those funds. They've only been authorized to allocate $75 million each year. So they've only been authorized to allocate part of those funds. What we learned recently, I heard from CETF yesterday, that they, through some statewide advocacy efforts, they will now be increasing the amount that they're allowed to allocate to actually increase to use the full amount that they are collecting towards these types of grants and the administrative fees that it requires to run the programs. So hopefully we'll start seeing a larger number of projects approved in the years moving forward. That wouldn't be eligible for, that would not be possible this year. It will start next fiscal year. And then I just wanted to highlight, there are broadband caseworkers now available through CPUC. I was invited by one of our county groups to join a call with them yesterday. They are very eager to connect with anyone who's interested in CASIF projects. So please know that they are there to answer questions in addition to consortia. And we are happy to connect you to them as well. So it's just one more resource in your toolkit. Okay. All right. So those are my great big huge updates from CPUC, and I wanted to open the floor to get some updates from our stakeholders here on this call, from your industries, from your region, from your city, from your county. What are your projects? What are you working on? Do you have any questions?
I have one comment, Shelby. There were no questions, and I don't have any on what you just did, but that is very helpful. I don't want that to go unsaid.
Thank you. I'm happy that the information is useful. Mm-hmm.
I just have one comment, Shelby, to make about CASIF. I think it's very interesting that it's not just the state of California, but we're seeing this across the country. We're seeing it in the federal agencies where the money's coming from, so from RUS, from the NTIA, and we're seeing at the state level here in California. They're not able to keep up with the distribution of the funds and the applications that have been submitted. They, as I think you've said in previous conversations to the group, and we've discussed, they were overloaded in the number of applications received, not only for LATA, and then they ran out of money, but also for FFA and for CASIF as well. There's just more need than there is money to go around. But interesting, it's good to see that there were a large number of LATA applications. People are paying attention to the programs, and also to see that there are a large number of FFA applications by both the public sector, which was really great to see, and of course the private sector as well. There is some overlap in sort of the builds that are going to be done or have been applied for funding for from the public sector and from the private sector. It's going to be interesting to see how the state deals with allocations of funding and scoring for areas that are unserved. We know that are unserved for mappings, and whether or not those funds go to the private sector companies or if they go to the public sector companies. Just a wrap up on the conversation about CASIF. It's also interesting that, as you said, CASIF was delayed twice. The application window in 2023. And the question is that's going to open according to plan in March of 2024, especially considering that they haven't awarded any of the 2023 grants at this time, and they are still behind. So my bet, if we're at the racetrack together here or we're at Vegas, my money is on at least one postponement of CASIF window in 2024.
I would love to see that. I had inquired in January if the cycle for the infrastructure grant for 2024 would move forward. And they said, yes, but we don't know the timeline yet. And so I was sort of caught by surprise this week in a conversation where they said, yeah, the application deadline is April 1st. So I think it's a case of following the rules until the rules change.
It's also very, very difficult for the state when you understand that the state itself, through the CDT, is building a middle mile network. And in constructing the middle mile network, they're looking at partnering with FFA grant applicants. And there's some overbuild and some overlap in a lot of these regions throughout the state. And the state is actually trying to make decisions and close on its partnership agreements with leasing existing assets and with potentially partnering and doing joint build with FFA awardees. But how do they meet their deadlines when the FFA awardees aren't going to hear anything potentially until June?
And my understanding is the awards will be made largely on a rolling basis for CASF infrastructure grants, but I expect also for FFA. So it will be interesting to see how they prioritize those awards. Again, the difference between the public and private middles first, and also regionally.
Yeah.
You know,
so the CDT is waiting on the CPUC. And everyone who's talking to the CDT is also waiting on the CPUC. But the CDT and the CPUC will not share and talk to one another about their plans or whether or not they'll make any commitments that the CPUC will fund FFA to advance the CDT middle mile. This has really gotten complex because of the delays.
want to move us back to any roundtable updates coming out of your jurisdictions or your industry or service area?
I don't see Terry on the call. I would be happy to share about what's going on in Ventura County if you like.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, great. So I think all of you know that the county has selected Astound. Astound is its partner. The county and Astound, the county was awarded LATA funding, and they are in the process of completing the design engineering now on the 126, and just a small portion of the 118. The 126 all the way from the middle mile network by the 5 freeway on the 126 all the way to the 101. There is an agreement, a joint build agreement that is now being signed between the CDT or may be signed between the CDT and Astound and the county and Astound for a joint build for the three parties, the state middle mile, the county, as well as Astound, building on together on the 126. And it looks like the costs are significantly low. About $300,000 per mile, which is quite remarkable. And it's because we've been able to work with the CTC, the Terry County, BCTC, the Transportation Corporation, in getting access to the BCTC rail line, the North Santa Paula rail line, mostly on the 126 from the 101, almost shy though, but almost to the middle mile from the state on the 5. That agreement between the county and the BCTC is in the works right now, and we're clearing all easements and other permit issues away with the county Department of Real Estate. So all of the plans that we've been working on are moving forward. We're waiting to hear word from the CPUC on the FFA funding, which was submitted for this project in the tune of about $20 million.
Hey, Troy, for reference, the $300,000 per mile, how does that compare to the going rate these days if you're digging up asphalt and building that in, state highway?
Yeah, it's very low. The reason that we're able to get 300,000 a mile is that we're plowing on the rail line. And the soils conditions are pretty favorable for the plowing as well. So we don't expect to spend a lot of time, not only in the construction, or should I say the excavation, but also in the restoration. Usually, if you can get, in an asphalt situation, if you can get somewhere between in the greater metropolitan area of Ventura County or Los Angeles County, if you can get down to 450,000 a mile, you're doing well. But that is a difficult thing to accomplish.
Yeah, so a third, that's a lot. Cool.
That's what's so attractive to this. That's what's attracting the CDT, the state, to this project.
Mm-hmm.
Good question, Brian.
Based on that, I'm going to stir up the conversation a little based on knowing about that Ventura County project and utilizing their rail lines. I was looking at the middle mile map in Santa Barbara County again this week and noticed there is a leg from Guadalupe going down to the 135 there that does also have a correlation with the railway, the Santa Maria Railroad, I believe. And so I'm interested if anyone on the call knows if anyone's talked to those owners or if there's any development along those lines. It's just another great strategy for reducing costs and increasing participation to get more people and more stakeholders involved. So I guess I have some follow-up to you on that.
Yeah, there is a catch-22 a little bit, or should I say there's just another side to the coin on working with railways, and that is it's difficult getting permits. Working with rail companies is not, it is a lengthy process, and you need to abide by all of their guidelines, rules, and regulations, which is quite time consuming and costly.
Good feedback. Looking forward.
I talked to Bill Bartels about that. He has talked with the rail line. The rail line has been, a participant in the broadband conversation for a number of years. So it's not a new conversation. What makes BCTC interesting is the fact that they are the owners. And I'm not sure the Santa Maria rail line is government owned. It may be privately owned. And that would be very different in terms of the model that Jory's talking about. The fact that BCTC hasn't always done it. It's just been, I guess, the last 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the right of way is publicly owned in the way it is and the way it lays out, it's very conducive to this. It may be very different up there, but worth the conversation.
It's also quite interesting, a bit of history here for those for everyone. The BCPC actually did design engineering of building a fiber network on the rail line. That was done about 15 years ago. So they were forward thinking and looking to see how fiber would advance the use and the value of that rail line. They identified at that point in time that what the actual costs were. Unfortunately, other winds of change sort of redirected them, and so they didn't move in that direction. But they certainly still see the value today, and they will be using. I should mention, thank you, Bill. The BCTC will benefit from this asset greatly. We intend to give them fiber to advance their technologies for public amenities and public safety on the recreational bike paths and also other recreational uses of that asset.
Yeah, I really appreciate that sharing that, because I think it just gives some of our other areas also an expanded variety of routes, right? And the impact that it can have in different communities based on the assets that you already have access to. Can we have an update from the VCOG LADA project? Vivian, Bill, you want to share?
Vivian, this is your thing.
This is you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'll share the big news first is that I don't think we've spoken since we've started posting out the needs survey and speed test. So that's the exciting news, is that if you're in Ventura County, please help us by responding to our needs survey and speed test, which I'll drop in the chat in a minute. So we've started pushing that out through the cities, and we really appreciate all the cities have been really supportive in helping us push it out through social media and other means. We're really trying to get this data, both qualitative and quantitative, to make sure that we can validate a lot of the ISP data and just get more granular data about the different counties, areas in the county, and kind of getting more data there. So we're doing that and pushing out for that data collection. So stay tuned for that, and I will share that in the chat in a minute. Bill, is there anything else that you want to add about that?
I think that our focus in the next month or two will be to spend a lot of time with each of the cities and crafting their own stories, their own narratives. Some of the work has been done in detail already. We just want to capture it. Others, we may have to create it, but we want to find some uniformity story and bringing it up to a regional level based on everybody and where they're at. So.
Thank you for that update. And so if anyone who is affiliated in Ventura County can help share out those links with your client base, your constituents, it will only improve the data collection for this project.
And I just want to say as well, the speed test is only one click. You just have to go in and click it once, and then you'll get the speed test data. And then the survey is very, very short. I think it's less than 10 questions, and it's very, very brief. So hope it's not too painful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby, we might mention the fact that we're reconvening the Digital Equity Coalition steering group from Ventura County, and we're looking at events. I use there's an S on the end of that, not just one, but perhaps two, as this all unfolds. And we see the digital equity conversation being very much tied at the hip with the VCOG conversation of deployment. So.
Yeah, I took the test here at Moore Park City Hall, and it was just very satisfying to see those numbers of gigabit up and down speeds. I mean, it was just like, wow, I don't need it personally, but here at the City Hall, we have it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I will say that taking it more than once is very strongly encouraged. So taking it on consecutive days, we know that speeds vary based on capacity and how many people are on at the same time. And so strongly encourage you and your constituents to take that test multiple times. The more data we have, the better, the more nuanced our strategy and recommendations can be. I want to move to Santa Barbara County. We'll just go up the coast north. Any updates from Santa Barbara County? Questions, thoughts?
I can provide just a few updates. I don't know if SB CAG's on the call, Shelby.
They had a meeting today. They're actually providing an update on their broadband project.
Okay. Maybe you can do a quick update on some of the things that they're working on. Similar to Ventura, we're waiting on FFA for the 4 different areas that we applied for. All those are up in our northern part of the county. We had a meeting with Shelby. I think you mentioned this. We had a meeting with CPUC yesterday. I thought that was informative. And I do want to meet with you, Shelby, about the CASF infrastructure. So we'll follow up on that. Outside of that, I see Carrie Gray on the call. I don't know if Carrie has any updates on the Econ Alliance project. I know they've wrapped that up. Anything you want to add there, Carrie?
No, we're continuing to have some discussions later this month with the county to see what the next step could be. Obviously, we need $45 million to complete the double ring that we had did the study on. So we're ongoing talks with the county and some other organizations to see what the next step would be for us.
And I'll wrap it up with the SBCAG update on their behalf. SBCAG is working with the County of Santa Barbara also to execute the objectives of their LATA grant, the county LATA grant, which include organization and formation of a JPA agreement. That is what they are updating today, updating their board on today. They've decided to add it into their current JPA between all of the municipalities, and will really focus on playing a convening and resource role, providing SBCAG the ability to be a fiscal agent on behalf of municipalities, to help support with resources, including a programmatic EIR that was recently awarded, the contract to complete the programmatic EIR for Santa Barbara County. And to sort of serve as a conduit of information and collaborator on projects across the county. The municipalities all agreed that they wanted to retain their own local authority over permitting processes and planning. So I think that that's, you know, reflective of the community, right? A JPA is only as good as the community that's agreeing to it. So excuse me, that is the direction they're taking as SBCAG. I also wanted to invite anyone in the on the call that's doing any of additional work in Santa Barbara County. Do you have any updates? I know I see
with LaWanda Pruitt, I put in the chat. We have a listening session with you on the Zoom, so we have that scheduled coming up on March 4th. I think I didn't put the date in yet, but it's March 4th. And we've been sending this out to stakeholders. So, and she has 2 listening sessions in Lompoc and 2 in Santa Maria that will be live in person. And she'll get those out to me and to you by Friday. She's trying to get past Black History Month to events she has this weekend. And on Monday, she'll get us those locations.
Thank you, Tracy. And to clarify, those are listening sessions around economic development. We know that broadband is a layer of economic development that can't be ignored. So if you are in the Santa Ynez Valley, we do encourage you to check out the link there and sign up for one of these sessions.
Thank you.
We have a little bit of more information on digital equity initiatives towards the end of this meeting. So we'll circle back around to talk about any updates out of Santa Barbara County in terms of the digital equity updates. Can I ask anyone from San Luis Obispo County that's on the call that wants to share any of your updates?
I don't personally have any updates. I do see, you know, Annie from SlowCog on the call. Don't want to put her on the hot seat, or Bill, you know, I know this is your first meeting. Don't want to put you on the hot seat, but definitely open the room if you do have anything you want to share out to the group.
Bill, would you mind at least introducing yourself? I think it's
sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Lucia with the County Administrator's Office, and I'm the new liaison with the county, working both with public agencies, nonprofits, and the private sector on broadband. A super quick update is we're behind significantly in many ways at the county level, and the geography, and also with the municipalities working together and figuring out the going forward. We've received a strategic plan, which is really more of a landscape in the context of where things are point in time, late December, working with RCRC and Maria Kelly, who's now with CDT. We're also waiting for news on FFA. We are in the process of working in a partnership with RCC and Tilson Engineering, and looking at doing the LATA low-level design work. And we've identified a couple of priority areas that are south of the city of Rio Grande, in the county domain, and looking to start finding locations for huts and in a couple polygons. And I think I'll stop there and just say that's high level. We're trying to catch up and have more of a comprehensive approach and figure out the board is interested in figuring out priorities and what we should be doing and what we should be having partnerships to do, and what the role is of the county in participation in RCRC, or possibly going it alone, or with with other counties in other directions, and also partnering with the private sector. So I would say kind of everything's on the table, and Michael knows this, that we're meeting shortly with some of the supervisors that are interested in this, and in getting ourselves more laser focused going forward. So just stop there, and that's a quick update. It's on my plate, and hopefully you'll see more of me, and I'll learn more from you all, and good practices and going forward. I would say one obvious thing that seems like low hanging fruit, but not clear that it is things that the county can do in terms of ordinances and big ones, policies and things like that. So certainly be interested if any folks have good advice in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Glad you can make it today.
Thanks, Bill. And we actually have been participating in a regional digital infrastructure task force group out of a partnership between SCAG, SANDAG, and CETF. And they have been working on draft recommendations for permit streamlining for municipalities and counties. And they're providing really, and this is really for all of you, they're working towards sort of an a la carte set of options that might work for your particular communities, that might help streamline the permitting process. So we will forward that along. I believe they're scheduled to do their final draft in March and have it ready by the beginning of April.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I can provide a quick update from the city of San Luis Obispo too. We're also still waiting on FFA grants to see if that gets awarded. In the meantime, we're hoping to put out an RFP before the end of this month for design engineering of our broadband plan, kind of our backbone route that we designed with our ladder grant. And so we're hoping that goes out fairly soon so that we have shovel-ready projects for when grant money does come available. And then we are also still in the process of trying to finish up negotiating our P3 agreement. So we have a preferred partner identified, but we need to get those negotiations started and completed. Again, hopefully fairly soon.
Yeah. All right. I really appreciate everyone's participation today in our roundtable discussion. We are going to move forward into our special presentation, and I'll invite Tim Tierney to lead this conversation, showcasing the priority areas map and how we are looking at tracking progress towards resolving priority areas in our region. Tim, do you want to share your screen and take it away?
Okay, yes, I will. And as I get ready to share the screen, in regards to our recording of this session, Shelby, how about we just record everything, and as to some of the license data that I'll be showing, we'll figure out a way in post-production how to obscure that part. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
All right, great. Okay, let me share my screen. Shelby, you tell me if you see it clearly, okay? Okay, is that clear to you, Shelby?
Yep, we can see the screen. Just
okay, great. And I'll be and when it comes to showing the slides, I got your note there. I'll be showing the slides through my screen. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Tim, doing mapping and GIS support for the Broadband Consortium. And what I'm going to be talking about today is what we've done so far in regards to mapping, and how that can be utilized. And then at the end of my time, I'll be talking about what we propose to do in the future towards collaborating. And I'll explain that as we get there. Okay, so what we're looking at right now on my screen, this is a live shot of one of the live online maps that I've developed for the Broadband Consortium. And so what you see here is In red is the outline of the 3 counties. That's our territory. Then these other lines on top of it that might look like spaghetti to some people, the blue and the orange. These are the what the Golden State Network is proposing to do across our territory, with the blue lines being what they propose to lease and the orange being what they propose to construct, at least as of the last time they updated these plans. You know, when they do an update, I try to get that data and get it into the map as quickly as possible. And in regards to other context, regional context we have here, besides the county outlines and the Golden State Network proposed, we also have a variety of other things, only a few of which I'm showing today because it's almost unlimited, the amount of data that's out there. So city polygons, and proposed project areas for FFA, and then in a different shade of pink, the CASF project areas as well. And then in addition to going back, there's our city polygons. Also another piece of useful context is the census blocks that exist within the counties, because a lot of data that's being presented is often presented through counts, aggregations, or tallies, you could say, that are associated with these census block polygons. And you can see that in the countryside, the census blocks are big, and in the urban areas, the census blocks are extremely small, sometimes as small as individual city blocks, but if you zoom in, you can see those clearly. But where the real rubber hits the road, you might say, here is when we get to showing the residences that we ultimately want to deliver broadband service to. And so shown in black here, these many black dots, this is what's called the broadband serviceable locations, the BSLs. And this is actually a licensed data set that we got from FCC, and terms of the licensing are that we can't just put it out publicly. And so that's why I had a conversation there with Shelby about this portion of the video. We may need to put up something else so that we're abiding by the licensing terms. But anyway, these many black dots that you see across the 3 counties, these are the official broadband serviceable locations. And in a perfect world, we would deliver wired broadband service to every one of them. Now, further data that we got from the FCC are the present service levels as reported by the telecoms, with red indicating where the locations are served by wired copper. And then plotting on top of the copper, here's where we've got cable. And then plotting on top of the cable, the way I've set up the map, is finally green, indicating fiber. Now, and so now you can see that it's really often these hinterlands, which are the hardest to reach areas, of course, where you've got most of the completely unserved areas, at least as far as wired internet goes. I mean, many of these are probably getting some kind of wireless internet. And so with this data and with the many other data sets that I have that I'm just not showing, what we've done so far is we've accumulated a large catalog of data that can be applied to a variety of purposes. And I'm always getting more data and trying to build up the utility of this resource. And one of our foremost tasks is, of course, to determine priority areas. And at the present time, and Shelby, you might want to interject here. And at the present time, just what we're doing is we're just letting the data speak for itself, where you can look at this map and see where there is service of what kind of level, and make determinations based upon literally just what you're seeing. However, there's many ways to skin a cat here, including algorithmic ways where you're querying the map for how many residences are getting a certain kind of service within a certain proximity to one another or proximity to certain anchor institutions, for instance. And through these means, other determinations of priority can be conducted. And like I know that in Santa Barbara County, the Chumash tribe recently finished a project where they hired a consultant, and they did certain algorithmic methods to make determinations on priority areas. Now the thing is, what one person thinks is a good algorithm, someone else can disagree with. And also algorithms are often based on data that was obtained at a certain time, but this is an unfolding situation where government entities are updating their data sets on an increasingly fast basis. And so you always want to use the latest and best data, because sometimes in between updates, we've seen the data actually change rather radically from time to time. So that is to say, just because Chumash tribe did a report, that report it's like a snapshot in time, and it may not be what everybody wants to base their determinations upon. Shelby, did you want to add anything to that before I move on?
I will add, we know that this data is imperfect, as Tim was mentioning. And so we do want to make sure that there is a conversation between our broadband team, our consortium team, and providers, public agencies, nonprofits, based on your ground truth knowledge of what you see in the communities or what you're providing. This is not exclusive. We are working on improving this map. What we use it for is to look for pockets that seem to be unserved. We are looking at this data. We're looking at the CPUC maps for the infrastructure grant, for example. That map has different criteria for what unserved appears as. The FFA map had a different set of criteria. So we are considering all of it when we're making our broadband consortium recommendations for where to target projects. So we really do encourage you to reach out to us if there's something you see on this map that you want us to know about, that we can share and discuss, and then reconfigure how we're presenting the.
Okay. So with that, Shelby, what I'll do is I'll zoom in on a certain area just so you can see the better granularity of data as we zoom in on a certain municipality, and then I'll move on to talking about collaboration. Okay. Okay, guys. So let's take a trip to Fillmore, California, in Ventura County, just in a certain area I've been spending some time looking at lately. So we'll zoom down in here, recenter the map, let these map layers re-render. Okay, so this big accumulation of yellow indicating cable service, that's Fillmore. And if I turn on the city boundaries there, now you can see the boundary of Fillmore City. Let's zoom in a little bit more upon it. Okay, so I'm just going through this exercise just to show you that you can't make your determinations just based upon what you see when you're zoomed all the way out at the county level, because important new details do come into focus as you get in closer. And also, it's if now we turn off the fiber and the cable layers, now you can see here's copper red plotting on top of the black, which is just the residences themselves. And then as you plot the cable on top, you can see, oh, look at that. Almost everything has cable service. That's super. And then if you plot the fiber, you don't even see a change because there's only a few spots that presently have fiber service. And then some other things you can do with the map. And what I'm about to say is not going to be anything new to people who use this software. But if you're a layperson, this may be interesting to know that these maps that we're making, they're more than just something to look at. Though you do get a great value of seeing data presented, that's the beginning rather than the ending of what you can do with these maps. There's a lot of algorithmic things you can do where you're actually, in a sense, talking to the map or asking it questions and getting answers back. So just to show you what I mean by that, I can I'm just going to select a random area. If I want to know what's going on exactly here, I can ask the map to give me a report of that area. And back comes an answer here, where within that square that I drew, I found over 600 residences served by cable, a tenth of that served by copper, and then 669. That's the total tally of all the residences. So in other words, out of 669 total spots, 665 of them are served by cable. And then here's a report down here of the details of every one of these residences, and these reports can be exported. So now you can do stuff with Excel sheets on them. And so the map is a way to not just view the data, but access the data, pull data out to do things with the data for other purposes. And there's more complex things you can do that I won't walk you through, but I'll just tell you, you could pick a location that might be a school. And you could have the thing tell you what things can be found within a certain radius of the school, for instance, or all the areas that can be found within the city limits. And so there's a number of things you can do. And this gets to when we're determining our priority areas, you don't just have to do it based on best guess, but you can actually use these software tools to answer questions for you. And like in regards to best guess, though, I'll show you one more thing before I move on with my presentation. These polygons that I just turned on, which are all in yellow, I was drawing polygons, doing my own best guessing, trying to characterize where are the areas that are served primarily by one technology versus another. So these red polygons are areas that are served primarily by cable. The yellow is served primarily by, the red is copper, the yellow is cable. Then down here in Santa Paula, you can see there's a lot of areas that are actually served primarily by fiber. And I was just doing this by kind of eyeballing it and using a tracing tool that's in this map to do so. But someone else could come along and do their own tracing that would disagree with my own. And so one of the challenges here is, as we're determining what our priority areas are going to be, is to do it in such a way that we're all agreeing, and that it's defensible as well if somebody comes along with a contrary mindset and wants to use different assumptions. We do things in a way that's going to hold up under some scrutiny. Shelby, I'm going to move on to talking about collaboration, unless there's anything else you want to interject.
I think that's a great idea. I did want to invite anyone to share what additional data would you like to see in our priority area mapping? Are you interested in seeing, for example, like where are the mobile home parks? Because they may be a priority area for your county or your city. Are you interested in seeing where your housing elements, plans are slated to be, to see what the development looks like in your projected growth areas? What are the types of data sources that you're interested in us being able to lay over some of this accessibility and infrastructure data?
Okay, and let me key
this is Steve Sawyer with Charter. I just have a quick question, Tim.
Yeah.
If you could go back a couple of slides where you showed at the bottom of the screen the list of, it looks like census tracts, and it looked like a few columns were showing the available speeds, and it looked like it was 1,000 megabytes or 1 gig by 35. Is that correct?
Let's see if I can bring that back up. I may have to rerun that.
I think it's the reported data that we received from FCC.
Right, and
it is,
and that's correct, because in our service area for Charter, we provide 1 gig service. So I just want to make sure that what I was reading was reflected in that. So yeah, the maximum advertised speed. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, this data, and this data is coming from FCC, made available to us through license. and in their documentation, they make it clear that this is telecom reported data.
Right, right. And then when you go from Fillmore over there to Santa Paula, where it's mostly green, the green is covering the yellow, which is our service area of, cable.
Yeah, turn the
And then
green
up
off and
there
there's your yellow.
around Ojai. Yeah, right. Okay.
So based on what the goals are
that-
for the community, like if, a certain municipality is like, we want to make sure that the business corridor is wired with fiber, or that we have, more than one available technology for these key low disadvantaged neighborhoods or something like that, they can go in and look at this and see where where the data aligns or leaves a gap in their public priorities as well.
Yeah, correct. And then with regards to cable, when you identify it as cable, it actually has fiber as their backbone. So it's not just cable, but it is a, hybrid fiber coax system. So we've got fiber connecting, into the various cities as part of our backbone. So even though it's not reflected in green, we do have fiber in our network.
Okay. Again, I'm taking the data from FCC and they structured it as, these are their determinations of they're making the call whether something is copper or cable or fiber. And if they call it that, then I just take it at face value.
Oh yeah, no, I understand, and I understand the distinction. So I just didn't know if others on the group, had a clear understanding that when it is cable, it's actually a combination of fiber and cable.
It's a good call out. Thanks, Stephen.
Well, Stephen, if what you're doing is being misrepresented in this data, and if you have some ideas how we can improve this, I'm certainly open to your input. This is why we're doing this, to show you what we're doing and get input. So,
well, no, I understand the limitations of the data and the categories that have to be, placed in, whether it's copper versus, purely fiber, or, in the case of cable, it's really, a mixture of both. But no, the data seems to be accurate. We've got yellow all over the place there because we are pretty much ubiquitously serving the entire county, and the black dots, would those be commercial addresses, not necessarily residential?
They are, you know what? They provide us with both. And I'm forgetting which one I have in the map. I think I'm showing everything.
They're listed as broadband serviceable locations. So that's really what those black dots are. They're not distinguished between the two.
Okay.
And we've actually had this discussion internally. Some of those might be served by wireless, by like a fixed wireless connection, which perhaps the terrain there, indicates that that's the best that can happen in that area. So it's just, it does take knowledge of the local area to really utilize these maps to the best of their ability.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your questions, Stephen. I appreciate your participation. Tim, we've got about 5 more minutes for the collaborative part if you want to move on to the next showcase.
All right, well, 5 minutes is good. Okay, so as we switch gears here, to summarize what I've been showing you is we've got a lot of data presented in a variety of maps. This is just one of many maps that we have. Since some of the data is licensed, that'll be, we can show it to you guys because you're in our community, but some data that we have and some maps that use that data can't ever be put out publicly because that's the terms of the service. And so what you've seen so far is the work output that one person, me, has produced for people like yourselves to consume. So I'm the maker and you guys are the consumers. And that's often how this mapping work is done. But as we go forward into everybody working together to determine collaboratively how is broadband going to be deployed, A system, like we have here, where a person, me, is doing the work, that's not very efficient. And so we have a vision for changing this up a little bit as we go forward. And so with that, I'm going to switch to some slides I have prepared. Let me find my other program here. Okay, so going forward here, what we want to do is change the conversation from one where I'm making things, other people are consuming things, to one where everybody is really sitting at the table and everybody has a say in this collaborative effort. And so we're going to be adding some capabilities to this tool that you saw here to make it into a platform where there can be more of a two-way or a multi-way conversation going forward. Okay, where this is going to be, let's see, I want to share my entire screen. There we are. Where this is going to be a tool for managing projects and whether that's broadband deployment or a CBO doing work on resource adoption or other things that can be thought of down the future, where to say it again, it's not me doing the work, but rather everybody is sitting at the table. And so taking Ventura County as an example here, any entity, whether you work at a county office or you're at a municipality or you're a community-based organization within the county or the other two counties, of course, can have a hand in this conversation by having an account that will create for you in this software system. And where, as an account holder, what you can do is, if you're a government agency and you've got your own data about your own infrastructure, your own demographics, or whatever it may be, you can add your own data directly into maps that can also have system data, in other words, the data that I'm gathering. And we can make together, we can make maps that are comprised of multiple data sets coming from multiple sources, not just stuff that I'm finding. But if City of SLO, for instance, Josh, hello, has data that they want to add in, data that they're controlling, and they want to add into a map for the purposes of a joint conversation, they can do so. And so in this way, these maps that we're making become a medium for a conversation or for collaboration, because the map can have data coming from multiple parties. And in addition to that, going back to a remark I made earlier, these maps can be more than things just to look at. And you can do analytical things like I showed you, but also on the map, I'm just showing you here schematically, on the map, you can actually add notes onto the map saying opinions or extra information about features on the map that maybe someone else has put in, and you can respond to that information directly in the map by an embedded note, which is very similar to when you're collaborating on an online word processing document, and a similar collaboration can be delivered through shared maps. And then finally, these individual projects that we may be taking on can each be stood up in a dedicated project page where you can have a map, like a dashboard interface with other kinds of tools to indicate other data that may be pertaining to things that are in the map. And now I'm going to take you through in my remaining just couple minutes here a scenario of how this would work. Again, returning to City of Fillmore. So as it stands today, lots of cable service in Fillmore, but over the course of time, what's going to be happening is there's going to be other telcos coming in, and they're going to be doing other kinds of deployment. And so what we could do here in terms of tracking deployment is we could have the City of Fillmore providing certain data, and different telcos also providing their data. And then over time, as other wired service is being brought into this area, the progress of that service over, step 1, 2, and 3 here can be tracked over time. And so as fiber, for instance, is being added to Fillmore, blue squares indicate where these residences are now being served by not just cable, but cable and fiber, so that the people living in these spots now have a choice in the kind of service that they want to obtain. And then jumping forward in time, we're going to get to some point where maybe a big chunk of the city now has dual service available at the residences. And that can be, number one, shown on the map. Number two, shown in an accompanying dashboard so that data in the map can be visualized in other ways, you know, in this case, a pie chart with some summary statistics. And those kinds of things can be done. And then finally, and here's my final point, Shelby, I know we're cutting it close on time. In parallel to deployment work that we want to track and plan on, there's also going to be adoption work, by which I mean adoption of services, which is going to be, I believe, spearheaded by community-based organizations. And so again, taking the example of City of Fillmore, with a certain amount of deployment of cable in my scenario here being shown on the map, a CBO may come in and they might be interested in things like, well, who's using what service? And so in this top left pie chart, we have an indication, you know, and I'm just making up these numbers. This is a future scenario of who's using cable, who's using fiber, and who's not using anything. So you could have a pie chart indicating that. And then amongst these people, then you could also have ways to discover who needs assistance on paying for their service, who's put in request for training on how to use modern computers and connected equipment, and then who might need assistance in actually affording and obtaining such equipment. And so in this way, in parallel to the actual physical deployment of infrastructure, we can also provide tools for, I guess, what I'll call the social infrastructure, and bringing services to the residents, people that live in these areas. And again, this is something that that our intention is that the cities, the telcos, the CBOs, they'd be in here adding whatever data they may have directly. They're taking a direct hand in this tool, because this is a community tool where my role is really going to be more one of a facilitator and a helper, but not the person who's doing everything for everybody, because that's where you get bottlenecks and when there's too many people needing things done. But by providing a tool where people can get their own work done, we can have a more dynamic and a more efficient workflow as people are pursuing their various goals. Okay, Shelby, you want to add anything to that?
Well, you may have been leading up to this next, but in the interest of time, I'll just share that Tim is working on putting together a pilot group of potential users. You know, this is the call where we are interested in finding out who might be interested in learning more about this, doing a deeper dive presentation on this particular tool, and being potentially available to do a little bit more work as part of a pilot group to develop this. But that's all I have to add.
Yeah, thank you, Shelby. Yeah, so so let me finish with a call to action here. We are seeking any interested parties who have some who would want to know more, and to please reach out to me or reach out to Shelby. And as we get this developed, we're very open to getting your input as we get this thing stood up.
Me, Tim, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we talked with Tim a little bit with our GIS manager. We're interested, and I think the only concern we have is trying to find a way to be able to consume the Esri GIS layers that we already have, so that we're not as those get updated, they get updated in the tool rather than us needing to try to remember that we made an update on our GIS side and then go make those updates in the tool as well.
Yeah, and thanks for adding that remark, Josh. And let me say for everybody's benefit that what we discussed about addressing that concern you have is that we can set this up through what's called APIs, which is how one computer system talks to another, where when you do your updates, then your updates can just be pushed out to this tool automatically, so that you're not having to do double work.
Fantastic.
We would like to also participate. My name is Rigo Hernandez with the American GI Forum. We are a CBO, a nonprofit organization that we help out families with low-cost internet and digital literacy, which is coming up. So we'll be very interested in helping you out, collect data and participate in the project as well.
Well, thank you, Rigo. I appreciate that. And actually, let me respond to that. Insofar as we have remaining time, Shelby. It's my experience, Rigo, that county, entities like county departments, municipalities, they've got software tools and they've got people that know how to run those tools. But community-based organizations, which I'm guessing you are often, they don't have so much capabilities in those regards, and that's really where the strongest need is. And really with that in mind, what we're trying to do here is set up something where those barriers of, you got to buy software, you got to hire a person who knows how to run the stuff, where we're minimizing those barriers. So I'm particularly encouraged that you're interested in participating.
Thank you.
So anybody who's interested, let me just say again, reach out to Shelby or myself. I put my email in the chat there, and we'll be following up with you.
Thank you, Tim. And I appreciate the time that you spent putting this presentation together for everyone. If there are follow-up questions, we are happy to meet with you directly, or to any of you directly, or to field those by email. And I will have our email addresses up at the end of the slide deck here.
Shelby,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
at the outset, you were asking a question about any layers or filters that I wanted to just get into the recording, that things would be useful, I believe, on commercial versus residential, disadvantaged census tracts, and on middle mile backbone, what is actually owned by the state and what's being leased. And then the point that Stephen made up was a good one about where telecom might be in a neighborhood or municipality or a geography, but it's not actually hooked up, but it's gone. There are huts that then maybe coaxial is going out from that. But if there were information on any of that in looking going forward on the feasibility, especially in the more remote areas, or whether it's cost prohibitive and you end up having to look at fixed wireless.
Great, thank you. And some of this data is going to have to come through this collaborative effort, right? Some of this will have to draw from stakeholders that are willing to share with our other stakeholders, not necessarily public. We can control, just so everyone's clear, Tim can control the public availability of data. So we are able to share that out with the folks who need it in order to advance the cause, versus having it just be open for any public consumer.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, what I'll do is following this call, I'll write to you. Some of the things you mentioned, I do have. I just wasn't showing it today. Other things I don't. And I'll write to you. And if you can write me back with a listing of what you just said and maybe other things you might think of, that'll be helpful to me.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the meeting with just a couple of other updates that you just need to have on your radar. The California BEAD initial proposal, BEAD, if you remember, is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Fund. This is the national fund being administered by the NTIA. And the NTIA is distributing BEAD funds to each state and territory in our country. And then the states are distributing it to sub-grantees to invest in deployment projects. As a reminder, California was allocated $1.8 billion of BEAD funding of the overall bucket of funding for the country. And they have gone through their process of submitting their initial proposal to NTIA. The state of California has gone through their process. They were required to do this in order to unlock the funds. The initial proposal is available online. It is currently being reviewed by NTIA. They have to approve it before the state of California can begin its prescribed timeline for distributing those funds. The first action after it's available is, after it's been approved by NTIA, will be to publish the fabric of eligible locations that are eligible to be funded through BEAD. So keep an eye out for that. They're in their initial proposal, February 15th, today was their big day that they wanted to publish it by, but unfortunately NTI has not given them an approval of the initial proposal. So of course, that will change now. The important thing to know is that the order in which all this will happen, we'll have about 2 weeks to review the fabric according to their proposal. And then it will open a challenge process, a 30-day window in which any entity, public, private, or nonprofit, not your average consumer though, can challenge the broadband serviceable locations that are eligible for funding, for BEAD funding. Whether that is to say, yes, this is served, no, this isn't served, the speed is listed incorrectly, the type of technology is listed incorrectly. Those are all different parts of the challenge process. That 30-day window will end and open a 2-week rebuttal period in order to receive evidence back that the challenge was unwarranted. And only after that process is completed will the application window open. So there is a strong encouragement from CPUC, who is distributing these funds through the state, for local governments, nonprofits, and providers to review that data when it's released and to engage in the challenge process so that we are clear on what locations are eligible for funding. As Jory noted at the beginning of the call here, there's so many different grants that are in flux still that it may be challenging to identify which areas, which locations are still unserved. But everyone will do their best. What you can work on right now is requesting your Tier E license. This will give you access to the BEAD fabric when it's released so that you can get started reviewing it and determining your approach to a challenge process right away. The Tier E license is free and it is something you can, take action on right now so that you're prepared when the time comes to determine if you want to participate in the challenge process or not. And
Shelby,
then, oh yeah, go ahead.
did you want me to make any remarks about that process, getting a license?
Sure, we have just a couple of minutes if you could share your experience requesting the license you got for the FCC data.
Yes, okay, so this data that Shelby is referring to, it's going to be either the same or very close to the data that I've been showing today with the dots of the many different colors. And so we went through a similar licensing process. We got a different version of the license than this Tier E that Shelby's referring to. And it is free. It is entirely online. It does take a little bit of time to get, but not too much. And if you, some of the questions that you have to answer online are, unless you really know this stuff intimately, it's a little bit confusing. And if you get it, and if you don't do it right though, which happened to us, they are actually very helpful to walk you through the process and get things unwound and set back straight again. So we had to have a phone call with somebody, but they were extremely helpful, much more than I was expecting. And then it just takes a if you do everything right the first time, you get your data in about 10 days. And if you make a mistake and you need help, then it might take 3 weeks or even 4 weeks to finally get your data.
Thank you, Tim. And, we are a resource for you if you're navigating that process. The final update we have is in our digital equity realm. As many of you are aware, the Affordable Connectivity Program has gone into a freeze mode as of February 8th. This means that the ACP subsidy will no longer be appearing on consumers' bills as of April 2024. Our providers, our internet provider partners have been tasked with notifying their customers 3 times, no less than 3 times before that happens, to let them know that the ACP will no longer be part of their bill. If there is a bipartisan bill that is en route, it is currently, there's no schedule for it to be heard on the Senate floor. But if it is passed, it will extend the subsidy for existing ACP enrollees through the end of 2024. It does not allow for additional enrollees, only for existing enrollees. In the state of California, there is a bill being passed through our rulemaking process in the state legislature that you may want to look into. It is called the Affordable Internet and Net Equality Act. We won't go through that right now, but we may spend some time on it next week or next month. What we're working on right now to work with our digital equity partners to resolve is how do we pivot, right? Rigo mentioned identifying low cost internet plans for consumers. So we have a couple of different resources that we're referring people to. The everyoneon.org and internetforallnow.org both have lists of providers that have low cost plans. The CETF call center, of which Rigo and Julio and AGIF are a participant. They accept calls through that call center, and they can help match your local constituents with a low cost plan that's available in their area. We also would love to know if you're a provider and you have a plan tier that approximates the cost of ACP, whether that's a $10 plan, a $30 plan, a $40 plan. We would love to hear about it so that we can share that information with our digital equity partners and know what your coverage areas are, of course. Malika put her information in the chat if you don't mind checking that out and sending us what you've got. Any questions about the digital equity piece? I am gonna go ahead.
Is there data available for a jurisdiction about how many of its residents are on the ACP program?
Yes, I can send you some data. We have it broken out by county here. And the estimated subsidy that's being lost on a per monthly basis for the county. What I can do though, Brian, is I receive a monthly update in a spreadsheet by zip code. So I can send you the data by zip code.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. I can chime in on that state bill.
Sure. Okay. We also have a drafted letter from CETF that might have some talking points for you.
That would also save me some time. Thanks.
And I'll just throw up our contact information. If any of you have any questions, please follow up with us. We will be focusing in March on our special topic of strategies for connecting low-income communities. And I have confirmed a panel. So far, someone from SLO County, someone from Santa Barbara County, and I'm working to identify and confirm Ventura County representative to talk about what the work they've been doing to connect low-income communities to internet options. And with that, we're at 1:01. I think that I've already stolen a minute of your next hour, and invite you to join us next month and share out the meeting opportunity with your colleagues. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.